chaos. They're on the chairs already, Alice, so you don't have to take one of those. That was just if. Yeah, sure. I'm gonna just wait a few more minutes, maybe 2 or 3 more minutes. Go ahead and read ahead if you would like. This morning we're gathered to fulfill the observance of Tisha B'Av, the 9th of the Jewish month of Av. This is a mournful holiday, one which commemorates the destruction of the second and the first and second temple in 586 BCE and 70 CE. 586 by the Babylonians, 70 by the Romans. We also observe it for the many tragedies, sadly, that we have experienced throughout Jewish history. more poignant today because in the past we had not experienced the destruction of the temples ourselves. So I mentioned last night in the dining room that Rabbi Foreman, a teacher of mine, used to say that up until the point of October 7th, he said this year, up until the point of October 7th, we were like Shiva goers. We were expressing our condolences from afar for many generations back, too many generations back, that we hadn't experienced it firsthand. Now we know in our community here that we have a number of people who fled Europe during World War II or who are survivors from the camps. So there's a poignancy in that a number of us dwindling, getting smaller and smaller. A number of us in our community have gone through the Holocaust and or experienced the loss of family members during the Holocaust. But this is now some 70 years after that period. And we are, many of us, not all, are the next generation, first, second, third generation of Holocaust survivors. Tisha B'Av becomes even more important because we have something that we're going through right now in the land of Israel, in Eretz Israel, within the boundaries of the state of Israel. As you know, on Simchat Torah of 2023, Hamas, a Muslim terrorist group dwelling in Gaza, attacked the Nova Festival and attacked several kibbutzim in the south. They took captives, many of whom they killed, were those right on the spot in the kibbutzim. They took captives, some of whom have died, some of whom are still in captive. So today we acknowledge that we are moving close to a year, as we are after Tisha B'Av going to be entering into the Yamim Noraim, the days of awe, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Simchat Torah, Sukkot. So as we chant Eicha and as we follow and gather together with readings to commemorate the destruction of the first and the second temples, we also commemorate the loss of life during the Crusades, during the Inquisition, during the pogroms, during World War II. In our Milchemet HaOlam, the wars of the world wars to protect the state of Israel and its citizens, and now October 7th. Sadly, there are more dates in there that I have not mentioned, but these are those that we have carried with us in a most pronounced way. So as we go through Tisha B'Av today, you're invited in the Jewish tradition to fast. And I want to invite us to reinterpret that fast. When we use the words fast, we're most often associating it with denying ourselves food. That we should be inui neshama, that we should be causing our neshamas and our guf, our bodies, to feel suffering. That it reminds us throughout the day that this day is different. But it also says we live by these mitzvot, we live by these minchagim, these traditions. We are discouraged from hurting ourselves in the process. So it is not our tradition at Seacrest to encourage fasting of food, but I offer you the possibility of identifying something that you would like to fast from today. So thinking of something that will not disturb the symphony of bone and body and muscle and organ that needs to work together to keep us alive, but for perhaps something else that you can do that can remind you throughout the day that this is Ma Nishtana, right? We say on Pesach, how is this night different from all other nights? Ma Nishtana Hayom Hazeh. How is this day different from all other days? So we start by lighting a candle in dedication to those who have died. I invite you, when our ceremony is over, to come up and stand in front of the candle. Take in the light, maybe from your own seats. Now you may not be able to see it. Just stand in front of it for a moment. Think about the ways that we, as Jews, have both suffered and persevered. Am Yisrael, Chai, the people of Israel, live. We take this day, and then tonight we come out of this immersive morning into a new day, into the reality, the recognition that we are a resilient people. And just how we have experienced secondarily the tragedies, the destruction of the temples, etc., that we can come through whatever comes our way now. So let us turn to page 17 in your prayer book. Not really start from the back page going forward, but to read together a reading by Rabbi Brad Artson. And when you see the word Korban, it's pronounced Korban. There are handouts in the front. I want to invite you, if there's no handout there, to come forward and sit in one of the seats where there are handouts. Please join me in reading on page 17. For our ancestors, the temple was not merely a place of worship and pomp. It was a symbol of wholeness. There it was possible to fulfill the desire of our Creator completely, to become one with God. Religion, tangible in form and simple in concept, provided a concrete way to expiate guilt, express gratitude, and share in success. By its very structure, the temple stood beyond time, offering the ironclad assurances that God dwelt there, that all was well. The Korban, the destruction, destroyed that sense of well-being. Instead of providing a place where Jews knew exactly how to make good with God, the ruins now became a potent symbol that we all live in a world of inevitable pain and ultimate abandonment. Love affairs, so full of promise at the start, often slide into mediocrity or erupt into hostility. Children and parents rarely fulfill each other's dreams and expectations. Those we love move to distant places. Illness erupts into the best of lives. People die. Each of us, no matter how content we may be, live under the shadow of aging in our own mortality. The Horban symbolizes all of that. There is no perfect place. The temple, a projection of the harmony and unity that we perceived as children, has fallen before the onslaught of maturity and death. On Tisha B'Av, we mourn the loss of that innocence and of wholeness. There is no temple. The world is still saturated with disappointment, disease, and despair. Our task, simple to articulate and impossible to complete, is to begin the work of rebuilding the temple by restoring a wholeness to our shattered planet, renewing a bond of trust between humanity and its members, repeating the commitment made by our ancestors to nurture our covenant with God, to be a holy people. Tisha B'Av, by forcing us to recognize a trail of tragedy and a psychology of division, is the first crucial step towards transformation and transcendence. In the words of the Talmud, you are not required to complete the task, but neither are you free to desist from it. Tisha B'Av signifies a willingness to begin the task, even though its conclusion eludes our view. It is up to us to begin. Let us turn back to the first page, and we ask ourselves, why was the first temple destroyed? Because of three evils in it: idolatry, immorality, and bloodshed. But why was the second temple destroyed? Seeing that during the time it stood, people occupied themselves with Torah, with observance of mitzvot, and with the practice of tzedakah. Because during the time it stood, baseless hatred, sinat chinam, prevailed. This is to teach us that sinat chinam is deemed as grave as all the three sins of idolatry, immorality, and bloodshed together. And I add to that sinat chinam often comes from not having the communication with another, projecting onto them what you think they may be feeling. So the first step is to work actually first within yourself, but then to recognize that one of the most important ways that we can move away from sinat chinam is through relationship and connection, compassion and empathy. Page 2. Eli, shelo yigamer le'olam, ha'chol ve'chayam, rishru shel hamayim, barak hashamayim, tvilat shel halev, ha'chol ve'chayam, rishru shel hamayim, 47, verses 1 through 6, give us a window into how the Israelites felt after the destruction of the temple. They were sent out from Israel and spread out over all of Babylonia. And so by the rivers of Babylon, there they sat down and wept. Let us read page 3 in the English. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down and wept when we remembered you, O Zion. Upon the willows in its midst, we hung up our harps, for there our captors demanded of us a song. Our tormentors asked for joy. Sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the Eternal One's songs in a foreign land? If I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand wither, let my tongue be dumb. If I do not remember, if I do not set Yerushalayim above my greatest joy. We weep for Zion and for her cities. Jerusalem is like a woman in childbirth. She mourns as a young woman who has lost her husband. Weep for the temple, which was destroyed because of the sins of the people. Weep because the enemies of God have despoiled the temple. Page 4, Eli Tzion. The transliteration is in the middle of the page. The translation at the bottom that I just read. Eli Tzion ve'ayira kemo isha ve'tzirecha ve'tivdu la ha'uratzak In the 7th century, a group of Jews called the Karaites. They were a group that followed biblical Judaism, but not rabbinic Judaism. They have since mostly died out, but they have left some beautiful liturgy and readings for us in this day and age. And they wrote a Karaite dirge for the fall of Jerusalem on page 5, the opposite side of that page. Just flipping the page over. Please join. Actually, I'll read the first part and we respond with sit alone and weep. For the house that has been forsaken, we sit alone and weep. For the temple that has been demolished, we sit alone and weep. For the fences that have been breached, we sit alone and weep. For my sanctuary that has been burned, we sit alone and weep. For the roads to the temple that have been uprooted, we sit alone and weep. For bolts that have been snapped, we sit alone and weep. For the killers who have conquered, we sit alone and weep. For the shame that has grown great, we sit alone and weep. For stone colonnades that have been scorched, we sit alone and weep. For friends who have been scattered, we sit alone and weep. For priests who have stumbled, we sit alone and weep. For sacred studies that have been forbidden, we sit alone and weep. For kings who have been scorned by God, we sit alone and weep. For nobles who have been humiliated, we sit alone and weep. For the poor who have decimated, we sit alone and weep. For the saints who have been trampled, we sit alone and weep. For the reigns that have been abolished, we sit alone and weep. In Jerusalem, we're 7 hours ahead, so they have gone through Tisha B'Av at this point. But I am brought back in my mind to memories of Tisha B'Av when I was in Jerusalem. And the Kotel, the freestanding wall, retaining wall that's still there today, has a vast courtyard in front of it, men's section, a women's section, and a egalitarian section. People would bring down their sleeping bags, chairs, pillows. There was not one spot on the ground that was not taken up by a human being. And in small groups, they would chant Eicha. So I invite you, if you've been to Jerusalem, to imagine that, because this is what happens in Jerusalem every year. We sit in front of the Kotel, the wall, and mourn for the loss of what's been as a nation. So we may not be sitting in front of that wall right now, but they are doing it for us. So the Book of Lamentations is the book that is chanted on Tisha B'Av. There are excerpts in our prayer book in front of you. Eicha. The word Eicha means alas. Yashva Badad, we said that Jerusalem sits alone. Once a great people, no longer. When I was in rabbinic school, I wrote a midrash off of Lamentations. And if you look at the word Eicha, if you vocalize it differently, you will come out with the same letters, but the word Ayeka. Ayeka. Where are you? We know our faith, we hope our faith is with us, but we have definitely in moments of loss, and to this day in our own trials and tribulations, asked that same question. Ayeka. Where are you? Zion's roads are in mourning. And there is that conception that the Shekhinah, the divine presence, dwelt and cried with the Israelites for the Sinat Hinam, grieved with us as we grieve. So I'm going to chant, for starters, sections of Aleph, the first part of Lamentations. For those of you who have heard Eicha before, this is the most well-known section of it, that very first verse. And the trope, the melodies that are assigned to each word, are mournful. And in fact, there are several other holidays that we chant their Kriya, their readings for, where we switch out of the melodies of that holiday for a sad section and go into Eicha, the Eicha melody. So I'll just give you an example. On Purim, when we chant from Purim, there is a section of the book of Esther where Esther is saying, she goes to the king and she says, there is a person who wants to kill my people. Please, may it be your will. May you find favor in my eyes. And that's in the Purim. But then it goes into the melody of Eicha. So when we chant from a celebratory moment, but we get to a sad point, we will sometimes actually take this melody and place it on that one. So we'll chant. I'm going to chant the first page, and I invite you to read the English after I chant it. Eicha, and please join if you desire. Eicha yashva. Actually, I'm going to start a little higher. Eicha yashva. Sarati b'medinot hayta lamas b'chol tivkeh v'layla v'dimatcha alecheya en lamenachem mikol oivecha korecha Hayula leoivi Kata Yehuda meoni Uma merov avoda Hi yashva b'goyim Lo matza ba'anoach Kol rodvecha hisikucha ben hamitzarim Darchei Tzion Amelot Mibli ba'im moed Kol she'arecha Shomemim Kochanechem ne'enachim Betulatcha nugot v'chimar lach Hayut tzara lerosh Ochavecha shalom Ki Adonai chokam Amot peshaecha Ol aleha Chalchu shiv'i lifnei tzar. We read together. Lonely sits the city, once great with people. She that was great among nations is become like a widow. The princess among states is become a thrall. Bitterly she weeps in the night, her cheek wet with tears. There is none to comfort her. Of all her friends, all who are allies have betrayed her. They have become her foes. Judah has gone into exile because of misery and harsh oppression. When she settled among the nations, she found no rest. All her pursuers overtook her in the narrow places. Zion roads are in mourning, empty of festival pilgrims. All her gates are deserted. Her priests sigh. Her maidens are unhappy. She is utterly disconsolate. Her enemies are now the masters. Her foes are at ease, because the Lord has afflicted her for her many transgressions. Her infants have gone into captivity before the enemy. Kalu batmaotenai, hamaru meinai, na nishpach la'aretz kebedi, al shever bedami, be'atei volav, ve'yonek birchovot kiryam, le'imotam yomeru, aye dakavayayim, bihitat pakel halal, birchovot ir, bihistapech narasham, al chekimotam, ma'aviodech, ma'adamelach, habad Yerushalayim, ma'ashvelach, va'anachmech, betulat bat Zion, ki gadol kayam shvirat mir palach. We read in the English, page 7. My eyes are spent with tears, my heart is in tumult. My being melts away over the ruin of my poor people, as babes and sucklings languish in the squares of the city. They keep asking their mothers, where is bread and wine, as they languish like battle wounded in the squares of the town, as their life runs out in their mothers' bosoms. What can I take as witness or liken to you, O fair Jerusalem? What can I match with you to console you, O fair maiden Zion? For your ruin is vast as the sea. Who can heal you? Turning to page 8. Ani hagever ha'oni b'shevet Evrato oto nahar v'yolech choshech lo ach bi yashuv yachpoch yado kol hayom bila v'sari v'ori shibar atzmotai bana alai v'yakov rosho utlala v'machashakim choshivani kematai olam gadar ba'ati lo atzeh hirbi nechashti gam ki ezak ve'ashava satan tfilati gadar derachai begazit nitai votai iva. And we read, I am a man who has known affliction under the rod Me he drove on, and unrelieved darkness. On none but me he brings down his hand. Again and again without cease. He has worn away my flesh and skin. He has shattered my bones. All around me he has built misery and hardship. He has made me dwell in darkness like those long dead. He has walled me in and I cannot break out. Who has weighed me down with chains. And when I cry and plead, he shuts out my prayer. He has walled in my ways with hewn blocks. He has made my paths a maze. Pene Adonai Hilkam, Lo Yosif Lechabita. Pene Kohanim, Lo Nasaru, Zekenim Lo Hananu. Odenu Tirlenainenu, Elezratenu Have. Bitzipiatanu Tzipinu, El Goelu Yoshea. Tzadu Tzeadenu, Milechet Birchovotainu, Karakitzeinu, Ma'uyamenu Kivakitzeinu. Number 4 on page 9. The Lord's countenance has turned away from them. He will look at them no more. They showed no regard for priests, no favor to elders. Even now our eyes pine away in vain for deliverance. As we waited, still we wait for a nation that cannot help. Our steps were checked. We could not walk in our squares. Our doom is near. Our days are done. Alas, our doom has come. Ata Adonai L'olam Teshev, Kis Achad Adovado, Lama Lanetzach Tishkachanu, Tazvenu Leorech Yamim, Hashivenu Adonai Elecha Venashuva, Hadesh Yameinu Kekedem, Ki Imaos Mastanu, Katzavta Alinu Ad Me'od. But you, O God, are enthroned forever. Your throne endures through the ages. Why have you forgotten us utterly, forsaken us for all time? Take us back, O Lord, to yourself, and let us come back. Renew our days as of old, for truly you have rejected us, bitterly raged against us. Take us back, O Lord, to yourself, and let us come back. Renew our days as of old. Hashivenu, page 10. Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Venashuva, Hadesh, Hadesh, Yahweh. that we have experienced in our lives. So there were keynote laments. There were keynotes that were written following the pogroms, keynote that were written that were following the Holocaust, and now a keynote written after the major wars in Israel. And now we have a keynote that was written by Rabbi Moshe Hauer to lament October 7th. And I invite you, please join, we'll read all of it together. If you would like, you are also welcome to just sit back and listen to these words. As you may know that there are others around the world who are reading these same words. They hearken to October 7th. Would my head be filled with water and my eyes a fountain of tears, I would cry all my days and nights for the corpses of my babes and infants and the aged of our people. I ask you to respond and join me in weeping, much weeping, for the house of Israel and the people of the Lord who have fallen by the sword. My eyes flow with tears, and I will take myself to the fields to weep, and ask others stunned and embittered to join in my wailing. For the beautiful young women and vibrant young men, kidnapped and led to slaughter, more beautiful and radiant than rubies, sapphire, or turquoise. They were slung and trampled like mud in the streets. For the house of Israel and the people of the Lord who have fallen by the sword. For these I cry and moan. Outside there is murder, and indoors terror. In Be'eri, in Re'im, Kfar Aza, and Sderot, are corpses strewn, nude and naked, bodies lying like refuse for wild beasts and animals, nursing children and the aged, young men and women, tormented by our attackers, enduring great shame. For the house of Israel and the people of the Lord who have fallen by the sword. My eyelids flow with water-dripping tears. I weep bitterly for the murdered of Tzahal, Israel's defense force. They assembled, risking everything, to courageously battle for God's name and to protect God's people, the mighty who readily do God's will. They were prepared to die for their love for their nation. I will moan for them with a torrent of tears, all of them deserving the greatest honor, while their families readily supported their sacrifice with strength. For them I let out a piercing cry, along with our grief for the destruction of both temples raised today. For the house of Israel and the people of the Lord who have fallen by the sword. The festival of Simchat Torah was transformed into a day of tragedy, the day we had hoped to celebrate the gifts of God's truth to our people. Instead, since that day our eyes flow with tears, we cry and shake our heads in disbelief. The nation of the precious Torah, who pursued peace and flourishing world, we are depicted as corrupt murderers by the world around us. The light unto the nation dwells in darkness. For this we certainly mourn. For the house of Israel and the people of the Lord who have fallen by the sword. The enduring hatred for the eternal nation continues to grow as our enemies plot to destroy and erase any trace of Israel. For this we mourn together with the burning of the house of God. Therefore, today, Tisha B'Av, I will arouse my grief and lament and wail and cry with a bitter soul, my sighs weighing heavily from drawn to dust. For the house of Israel and the people of the Lord who have fallen by the sword. Our hearts are in the east. Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, Venashuva, Venashuva. Haladesh, Haladesh, Yameinu Kekedem. Answer us, Adonai, answer us as we remember our affliction, the grievous trouble that so often overtook us. Page 12, the second paragraph. Consider not our wrongdoings. Turn not away from us. Be mindful of our plea and hear our supplication. Your love is our comfort. Answer before we call. This is the promise spoken by your prophet. I shall answer before they have spoken. I shall heed their call before it is uttered. You, O God, answer us in time of trouble. You rescue and redeem in time of distress. Blessed is Adonai who answers the afflicted. We rise in body or in spirit as we face the ark and chant the 13 attributes of God's mercy. We'll chant them one time. Adonai, Adonai, Erachum v'chanun, Erech Apayim, V'rav chesed v'emet, Notzer chesed la'alafim, Noser avon v'afesha, V'chaked naked, V'naked. Let's do it 2 more times. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'chanun, Erech Apayim, V'rav chesed v'emet, Notzer chesed la'alafim, Noser avon v'afesha, V'chata v'naked. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'chanun, Erech Apayim, V'rav chesed v'emet, Notzer chesed la'alafim, Noser avon v'afesha, V'chata v'naked. We remain standing or sitting tall in our seats for the mourners' Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah, V'yamad yivrach chirutei, v'yamlech malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yamechon, u'v'chayetecho Beit Yisrael, ba'gala v'yizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'olam lo me'omaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalau Shmei Dekudsha B'richu. Le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, ta'amirat bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. We turn now to the back, page 18. As we say Where there's sadness, there can also be hope. Where there is grieving, there is also joy in memory. So we say, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. You're invited to sit down. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. V'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam. Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kulam. I am a supporter of an organization called the Parents Circle that's made up of parents, both Israeli Jews, Israeli Arabs, and Palestinians who've lost children in the last 70 years. They come together and they grieve together. So I end with the song both because it says shalom, but it also says salam. Salam being the word for shalom in Arabic. May we be able eventually to sit down and grieve together so that there will be some kind of tikkun, some kind of healing that will allow us all to live in peace. Thank you all for coming today.
Thank you.
If you would like to come and stand at the candle for a moment, you're welcome to.
to where you live, the building where you live. Okay. Good job. We can go this way.